last night you did have, it was kind of my undercard, to be honest with you. I was watching more UFC than I was on the boxing undercards. I was more in tune with the with what was going on. It was a good card, man. It was a good card that they brought forth to end 2020. You had Stephen Wonderboy Thompson taking on Geoff Neal, and it was a good night of action. You just had a lot of highly contested, high strikers in the main card. It is tough taking on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, man. It's such a pain in the ass. You know, every time it feels like somebody is going to get him figured out, or maybe he's on the other side of it because he's going to be 38 soon. You know, he goes and puts forth a performance like this against another guy in Geoff Neal who's you know, trying to make his name against Wonderboy, but just couldn't do anything. It was tough. It was tough as far as catching up with him. You saw many times where Geoff Neal just looked almost mentally beaten as far as just like the exhaustion he was getting of trying to keep up with the movements of Wonderboy was really getting to him. And it was a runaway. It was a runaway for Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. The only thing that we really had in it was a bad clash of heads, a bad night for headbutts, by the way. I don't know if people saw on the Showtime boxing card, a guy, Chris von Yeerden, who was on the program last week. He got a nasty cut against Boots Ennis. I mean, it was like another mouth opening up on his head. Really, really looked bad. So all our prayers go out to Chris. Stinks for him that's how the fight ended. Now, look, I'm not gonna lie. Jaron Ennis looked like he was having his way with him. So, I mean, I guess it is a way that maybe he gets out of there with a loss, but that's not the way he wants to go down. You heard the way that the guy spoke last week. It's just not what he's about. It's not what Jaron Ennis is, you know, who's trying to make his way up as a title contender as well. That's not how he wants to go down. You know, you have an IBO world title on it, so it just sucks that goes. But yeah, it was a bad night for headbutts. I missed, but supposedly there was another one on the Showtime card, so bad night for clashing heads, for sure. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, though, getting the win against Geoff Neal. Runaway decision for Wonderboy. Vintage performance, you know, just always moving, always countering. Great night of body punches. A lot of stuff that he was sneaking in right to the body. We'll get to Jose Aldo in just a little bit, but those hammers that he comes at you with when he's attacking the body. Just one of those underutilized weapons in mixed martial arts. You wish you would see more guys go to, but two vets in the game who have been doing it forever, two of the best strikers at it. They really utilized it well tonight. The interesting one out of this, though, so Wonderboy afterwards called out Jorge Masvidal. Those two fought 3 years ago. They fought in November of 2017. It was a unanimous decision win for Wonderboy, and really set Jorge Masvidal kind of into the realm of revitalizing his career. I mean, it was a fight where, you know, then he went off and he decided to do this reality show after some consideration. And then comes back and he starts just steamrolling folks. This is an interesting call out from Stephen Wonderboy Thompson because you don't normally hear a guy call out somebody that he's beaten. So on the one hand with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, I get it. You know, he wants to fight a guy in the welterweight division who's ranked above him. And, you know, it's one of those things where you've already beat him, so you probably feel good about your chances. It's just an odd tactic. You don't see it that much. He's not calling out Colby Covington, and he's not calling out Leon Edwards. He's calling out George. And I do think it's a fun matchup. I think it's a fun matchup stylistic. I think it can make for a good fight again. I'm interested. It's a lot. It reminds me a lot of what we're going to have coming up next month with Dustin versus Conor. You know, this newfound confidence, this newfound, game wrecker mentality that George has kind of come with, that Dustin brought to the 155 division. Do we see that from Jorge in a rematch? I think that could be an interesting aspect of it, but I would say, as far as Wonderboy is concerned, look, it's sometimes it's a beautiful watch. if you can appreciate, but it could also be a little bit of a lull fest. Like the guy's got, some tough title fights in memory. He's a tough cookie to figure out, and it feels like you're always kind of waiting for him to maybe unleash one of those hellacious wheel kicks or something like that, or something Bruce Lee like. But for the most part, he's just a Rubik's Cube for his opponents. A tough Rubik's Cube. I mean, one of the best to ever do it in the division, but it's not always like this thrilling slugfest as we saw tonight. And we have heard Jorge say this. He does want to run that fight back. He does want to have a matchup with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson again. So he'd like to get that back. I wouldn't be totally shocked if Jorge took the bait on that. The one thing I would say, though, is, all right, Jorge Masvidal is this giant pay-per-view star now, right? He just had Fight Island, huge success. The BMF title, huge success. This is the playpen that he's in right now. And I don't know what him versus Wonderboy does. Like, it's the NMF versus the BMF, the nicest mother bleeper ever versus the... I don't know what that lead up is like. Compared to, let's say, Colby Covington versus Masvidal. Now, in comparison, look, if Colby goes and tries to take him down left and right, it could end up being that, like, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, maybe they like that style better. Maybe they feel like they fine-tune some things, they can go and get it a little bit better. But you have that. You have the rematch with Kamaru. You have, if Leon Edwards can get a win and do this thing right and get some shine on himself, I think he's right there. The backstage footage, I think that's there for Jorge as well. So, he's kind of the money guy still in the division, and I just don't know what this does for Jorge. Steven's not above him. He's below him. He's lost to him. It doesn't really draw a big pay-per-view audience. So I don't know. I would be a little bit surprised if this is the next fight that Jorge takes. If Jorge lost to Covington and then wants to get another top 5 win and takes on Wonderboy, then I can see it happening. But from my mind, and I don't know when Jorge is going to be back in the cage, but it just feels like him versus Covington, like that's got to be the one that happens. Daniel talked about the fight that he wants to see most in 2021 is John Jones versus Stylebender. And a lot of that's because of the trash talk these guys have had. It's been very personal, and it goes kind of the same way with Jorge versus with Colby. And I do think that when you have your crack at the title against Kamaru, now you didn't get finished. You went the distance. You had a week's notice after being in and out of camp. Had a rough weight cut. But you are on the outside looking in. He's going to be taking on Gilbert Burns next. So, who's the win? Again, I think if he, went and beat Leon Edwards, I think he could get back in there. I think if he beat Colby Covington, he just needs, it feels like, to just get his hand raised and he could get back in there. But as far as Wonderboy, look, it's a smart call out for him. You want to go get the most recognizable names. That's going to be a fight that people will tune in for sure with how much of a star George has turned into. But I don't know if that'll be the option they go with. But it is. I do think he's got some stuff. He's got some stuff going for him. I don't know if he's got all the stuff going for him to get that fight. What else do we have this night? We also had Jose Aldo Jr. got a win over Marlon Vera. Jose looking fantastic, getting himself a win at bantamweight. Looks really good at the weight class, man. Petr Yan is an absolute savage. He looked good early on in that fight. And, with Marlon Vera getting the win over Sean O'Malley, he's got a little bit of shine on him as well. Really, I thought took it to him. I didn't think this fight was that close. They talked a little bit about the pressure that Marlon was bringing in the second round. A little bit, but I thought that Jose, with that body work that he was putting on him, with the strikes that he was putting on him, I thought that was the real story of it. And then, maybe wary of some of that pace that Vera was putting on and not wanting to, get caught like he did a lot in the Yan fight. He went and tried to submit him in the third round, and it came close a couple times, but really just had him locked up the entire way, and went his way. Good victory for Jose. a lot of respect to an all-time great. I'd like to see him, kind of get that storybook ending, but the entire featherweight thing behind him. I don't know what was going on. He had like some blue, tattoo that was like a wash away or something like that. But yeah, it was a good win. It was a good win for Jose, getting himself a victory. And he called out TJ Dillashaw. A lot of guys calling out TJ Dillashaw as he's going to be set to make his return coming up. I mean, he was your former 135 champ. And so I like that fight. I'm into that. I think that's cool. I like the fact that Jose's got himself somebody in mind, taking on a guy who's been the bantamweight champion. I think that absolutely would solidify himself as going and getting a crack at the belt once again. Although it's a tough top of the division. You got Aldo, you got Corey Sandhagen. Marlon Moraes took a tough loss tonight. He's on hard times, daddy, right now, which is tough for Marlon, who trains down here in South Florida. But it just seems like he gets into these fights, gets off to a gangbuster start, and has just been getting folded up later in these matchups. So tough sledding for him as far as that's concerned. But man, 135 is a cranking division. It's really, really good. You had Mikel Picheda taking on Chaos Williams. I thought Chaos Williams got this, from my mind. I thought that Michel got a lot of his razzle dazzle stuff, the jumping around, all that type of stuff. I thought that Chaos Williams stood pat and was hitting him with the better shots up the middle. I think that the numbers dictated that afterwards too. I think that people got way too much credit for a couple of takedowns. I thought that it should have been 29-28 going Chaos's way. Last round, I understand Picheda gets the nod there, but I thought that he landed in the first and second round. I thought he landed the bigger shots, that the numbers went his way. So I thought Chaos got a little bit hosed there. Not like not the biggest robbery in the world, but I didn't like the nod the way it went, for quite frankly. And then what else do we got from this one? We have Marcin Tybura getting himself a win over Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy got TKO'd. Looked really good in the first round, Greg Hardy, and in the second round got taken down and pummeled. Just got absolutely throttled by Marcin Tybura, who's now won 4 in a row. So that ends a little short 2-fight win streak for Greg Hardy, whose last loss was to Volkov, who at the time is top 10. Is he still top 10 right now? Let me look at the heavyweight rankings. Yeah, Volkov's number 6. So, it's been a while since Greg Hardy got a loss, and honestly hasn't really suffered anything like that. Greg Hardy's never really been stopped like that. Because you had the weird thing with the inhaler, that got overturned. That brought a little bit of a rough go. You had the Alan Crowder fight where he had the illegal knees, so he got a loss there. Volkov, no shame in that, really, because remember, he took that on short notice, too. So this is the first time that Greg Hardy's really gotten blasted. He was talking this week about fighting, going over to boxing and taking on Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder and all that type of stuff. It's, you wonder if he's getting tired of this road. I mean, look, he fights a lot. I mean, he's been since 2018. He's been pretty active. He's gotten a lot of fights under his belt. We're talking 11 fights in 3 years. So he's been putting in a bunch of work. He's had he's trying, but I wonder what a loss like this kind of does for his confidence. Because this is the first time he suffered anything like this, really. Because I think a lot of people gave him props after the Volkov loss, and they were like, look, Greg Hardy, you know what? We talk a lot of bleep about him, but went into Russia and went the distance with Volkov. So I don't know. That's going to be a fascinating one. Then you had Anthony Pettis also get himself a win on the prelim. And Anthony Pettis, I believe, is heading into he's heading into free agency. So there are some Bellator rumblings that are there as well with Anthony Pettis. Speaking of which, I did miss on my prediction of Yoel Romero. I should mention this because I've been saying that I thought he was going to go to BKFC, but he didn't. He ended up going to Bellator, and he is going to be in the 205 division. This is also coming off the week where they just signed Rumble Johnson. Apparently, the big thing is like they convinced him. That Bellator got turned on this. That they weren't, because remember, Scott Coker was on the record saying that he was on the record like Daryl Morey lying about Ben Simmons. He said that they weren't interested in Yoel Romero. A week later, Yoel Romero's on Bellator's roster. So I think it's fun. There's a lot of good fights there for Yoel. He's going to go to 205, which I think is cool because, he's boys with John Jones, never kind of ventured into that realm of going to light heavyweight, and has had some weight issues. He's built like a slim cinder block. There's not much to suck out there. So even though I think he'll be short for the division, the guy's a time bomb. He's a time bomb of offense, and so I think that's going to be a fun addition for Bellator, and I'm glad we're going to still get to see Yoel Romero in some mixed martial arts. But whiffed on my prediction, so I didn't want to skate on that as far as I'm concerned. But I am excited to see Yoel. I think Yoel versus Rumble's a fun fight, man. If they go that route. Now I wonder what the way Bellator's in this weird spot because they're like, oh, we want to go and we want to be young and all that type of stuff. We're out of the Legends game. I don't consider Yoel Romero like in the Legends League, like Tyson and Chael Sonnen and Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones, or Chael Sonnen versus Fedor, or all that. Yoel Romero is not your average 44-year-old. So I'm excited. And Rumble Johnson, you're getting him revitalized off his. I think it's great. Quite frankly, they're both good enough to be fighting in the UFC, and Scott Coker's been boasting about they got the best light heavyweight division. I think it's a fair argument. I think it's it's a fair argument to have as far as depth. Now, look, UFC still has the man, even though you don't know what he's going to do, if he's going to go to 205. And then if Izzy ends up fighting at light heavyweight, it's all well and good what Bellator says about having the best division. If they end up doing that fight at light heavyweight, the biggest light heavyweight fight that'll be talked about will be John Jones versus Israel Adesanya. But either way, a tip of the cap to Bellator getting themselves Yoel Romero. And that was the UFC action from yesterday. We'll have our end of the year recap coming up next week, our fighters of the year, all that type of stuff. Very, very, very radio, very hacky that we're going to do. It's going to be fun, though. I'm looking forward to it. I like looking back on the year. Crazy year that was. UFC's obviously got more of an actual year to bite into because they never stopped. Boxing's a little bit strange because boxing has the first 2 months and the last 2 months. That's it. That's all boxing really. That's all you have to. That's the only apple you have to bite into there.